Episode 159. The Nightmare's Double Embrace. The evening sun filtered through the labyrinth's impossible windows, casting patterns of light that shifted between realities with each passing moment. The castle hummed with its usual organized chaos, 15 children gradually settling into their evening routines, while 56 adults coordinated the complex logistics of a household that defied every conventional understanding of family structure. But tonight, in one of the castle's most private and heavily warded chambers, something primal and profound was about to unfold that would mark a significant deepening of bonds between three souls whose respective natures existed at the very edges of darkness itself. Jade stood in the center of a chamber that existed in a pocket dimension specifically designed for complete privacy and absolute discretion. The space's architecture blending Gothic aesthetics with nightmare imagery, creating an environment that felt simultaneously beautiful and deeply unsettling. Exactly the synthesis that tonight's encounter required for honoring all three participants' most authentic and most dangerous selves. At 27 years old, having recently undergone transformations and enhancements that had optimized her already extraordinary capabilities, she possessed power that approached cosmic significance across multiple domains. But tonight, power mattered less than desire. Capability mattered less than craving, and all the accumulated enhancements that made her formidable protector of her impossible family would serve different purpose than usual defensive applications, or usual reality-shaping interventions. Tonight, her strength would meet its match in nightmare chaos and in controlled demonic darkness. Her fearlessness would find proper outlet in embracing aspects of desire that conventional romance typically excluded through fear or through prejudice about what forms passion could legitimately take when partners possess natures extending beyond baseline human parameters and into territories that most would flee from an absolute terror. The original Freddy Krueger prowled the chamber's perimeter with his characteristic predatory awareness, the nightmare demon, whose dark nature and whose aggressive intensity made him legendary even within household, where baseline normal had been thoroughly redefined through 8 years of accumulating extraordinary individuals. His burned visage showed clearly in the chamber's dim lighting, no illusions concealing what the fire had made him, and his iconic razor glove caught the light with menacing gleam that promised violence that love, rather than malice, would direct toward purposes that pleasure, rather than pain, would ultimately serve. His voice, when he spoke, carried that distinctive rough quality that his damaged vocal cords created, making even simple statements feel weighted with menace that decades of nightmare hunting had cultivated into a central aspect of his presence. Jade, sweetheart, you sure about this? Once we let go completely, once we stop holding back the darkness that redemption usually demands we keep carefully controlled, there ain't no going back to pretending we're anything other than what we actually are beneath the love and the family warmth. You'll be seeing us at our worst, experiencing us at our most dangerous, feeling what we're really capable of when all restraint gets released. The dream demon stood near the chamber's darker corner, his manifestation more ethereal and more purely nightmarish than his original self's physical form. Demonic nature, visible in ways that made clear he represented something fundamentally other than human, despite the consciousness and the genuine feeling that redemption had granted, making him person rather than just being force of pure malevolence. His voice emerged with layered quality, suggesting multiple tones speaking simultaneously, creating unsettling effect that even Jade's considerable courage found somewhat challenging despite her absolute determination about what she wanted experiencing tonight. The restraint we maintain during normal encounters, the careful control we exercise to ensure we don't actually harm or actually frighten you beyond playful intensity, that represents considerable effort and considerable constant vigilance about keeping our true natures carefully leashed. What you're asking for, what you're explicitly requesting we provide, that means releasing those leashes completely and trusting that your strength and your desire both prove sufficient for handling what we become when nightmare and demon both find full expression through encounter that celebration rather than suppression characterizes our engagement. Jade felt anticipation building, recognition that nervous excitement and genuine craving both contributed to her eagerness about finally experiencing them completely, rather than always sensing they were holding back significant portions of their authentic power and their authentic intensity. Her voice when she responded carried absolute conviction, mixing with barely contained desire that the careful preliminary discussion had been building through its extended focus on what was about to occur and what it would mean for their relationships moving forward. I am absolutely certain about wanting this, about needing this, in ways that my rational mind struggles fully explaining, but that my body and my soul both recognize as essential experience that our bonds require sharing for reaching complete depth and complete authenticity. I have faced cosmic threats and reality-altering dangers, have transformed myself through accumulated enhancements, making me considerably more than baseline human, whose limitations might justify caution, that my capabilities have transcended through deliberate modification, creating resilience that normal fragility would never permit accessing. Her voice strengthened with emphasis about what she wanted them to understand regarding her readiness and regarding her genuine desire for them to stop protecting her from their complete authentic selves. I want your darkness, want your nightmare power, want your demonic intensity without reservation or restraint or careful moderation that concern about overwhelming me has always imposed as limitation, preventing me from experiencing complete you rather than just carefully controlled versions that love makes you present while hiding dangerous, beautiful truth about what you actually are beneath the redemption and the family warmth. She moved closer to where they both waited, her body language communicating readiness and eagerness rather than fear or hesitation. I am not fragile, despite how you sometimes treat me. Am not easily overwhelmed, despite your assumptions about what I can handle. And I am absolutely craving experiencing everything you both can provide when restraint gets released and when your respective authentic natures find complete expression through encounter that celebrates rather than merely tolerates aspects that conventional romance would reject through fear, disconnected from recognizing that darkness and intensity can enhance rather than diminish when partners possess courage, matching their desire for complete authentic connection, transcending comfortable limitations. The original Freddie's response was characteristically direct. His burned features showing emotion that his damaged face made difficult to read, but that his voice communicated clearly through tone and through word choice. All right then, sweetheart, you asked for it and you're gonna get exactly what you wanted without us holding back or worrying about being too much or being too rough or being too goddamn scary for someone who keeps insisting she can handle whatever we throw at her, despite us knowing exactly how intense we get when the nightmare really comes out to play. His razor glove scraped against the stone wall, the sound making her shiver with anticipation rather than with fear. We're gonna make you feel absolutely everything, gonna push every boundary that pleasure creates, while ensuring safety and ensuring genuine consent throughout, despite our intensity making control seem unlikely to those unfamiliar with difference between wild and reckless, between dangerous and harmful, between nightmare passion and actual malice, that we ain't got nowhere in our hearts when it comes to you, despite our natures suggesting otherwise to people who can't see past the monster to recognize the man underneath. The Dream Demon's transformation began as his ethereal form solidified into something more physically present, while maintaining nightmare qualities that normal flesh could never replicate through purely biological means. His voice took on more unified quality, while maintaining underlying harmonics, suggesting his fundamentally other nature. Then we proceed with absolute commitment to your pleasure and to giving you exactly what you've been craving, what you've been asking for through increasingly explicit requests, that patience and careful consideration finally made us willing to provide once certainty about your readiness overcame our protective instincts. counseling continued restraint despite your obvious frustration about our careful control. The dream demon moved first, his approach making the air itself seem to thicken with nightmare energy that he no longer carefully contained beneath surface presentation, allowing his nature to manifest fully in ways that the chamber's specialized wards made safe for Jade's perception, despite the psychological impact that unshielded exposure to pure nightmare essence typically created in those lacking her considerable mental fortitude and her absolute lack of fear about experiencing darkness directly rather than fleeing from intensity that most would find overwhelming. His touch, when it came, was wrong, fundamentally wrong in ways that her enhanced senses immediately recognized as violating normal physical laws and normal tactile expectations. His demonic nature making his caress feel simultaneously substantial and ethereal, present and absent, pleasurable and unsettling in ways that her mind struggled processing through normal frameworks, despite her body responding with arousal that the wrongness paradoxically enhanced rather than diminished through novelty and through intensity that baseline human sensation could never replicate. The original Freddy joined with his characteristic aggressive energy, finding perfect outlet, his burned hand gripping her hip with possessive force that bordered on painful without crossing into actual harm. His strength and his control, both evident in how he touched her with intensity that communicated absolute claim, while maintaining awareness about her limits even during encounter explicitly designed for pushing those boundaries as far as mutual desire and genuine safety both permitted exploring. His razor glove traced along her spine with pressure that she could feel through her clothing, the blade's edges creating sensation without breaking skin through his perfect control, making the menace real, but making the danger carefully directed toward arousal rather than toward actual injury. His rough voice emerged near her ear with words that darkness and genuine feeling both informed. "You're ours tonight, completely and absolutely ours, to do with as we please within the consent you've given and the trust you've shown through asking us to stop being careful and start being real with you about what we actually are when the nightmare gets unleashed." Jade felt herself responding to their combined intensity, her enhanced physiology making her capable of processing sensations that would overwhelm baseline human nervous system, despite their power and despite their deliberately unsettling quality, creating experiences that fear and arousal both contributed to in ways that her complete lack of conventional anxiety about darkness permitted her to fully embrace rather than needing to manage through defensive mechanisms that most would require employing for psychological protection. The clothing she wore became an obstacle that their coordinated effort removed with efficiency that spoke to predatory capability rather than to gentle consideration. The Dream Demon's nightmare manipulation making fabric simply cease existing in ways that normal undressing could never replicate, while the original Freddy's more physical approach involved tearing and ripping that his strength made effortless, despite the material's durability that casual destruction should not have permitted overcoming so easily. She found herself caught between nightmare essence and physical aggression, between the Dream Demon's fundamentally wrong touch that her mind continued struggling to process despite her body's obvious positive response, and the original Freddy's rough, demanding physicality that his burned hands and his razor glove both contributed to creating through careful violence that genuine skill made safe despite surface appearance suggesting reckless danger, disconnected from recognizing the absolute precision his control actually maintained. The Dream Demon's voice emerged with those unsettling harmonics that his nature created through being something fundamentally other than human, despite his consciousness and his genuine feeling making him person rather than just being force of pure nightmare without authentic self behind the terror. A taste of courage and of desire in equal measure, blend that we find intoxicating because most people we encounter carry only fear when experiencing our true natures without the careful restraint that redemption usually demands, we maintain for preventing psychological damage that unshielded exposure typically creates. His form shifted in ways that physical bodies could not replicate. Nightmare nature allowing configurations and allowing capabilities that baseline biology simply did not permit regardless of enhancement or modification, his touch becoming multiple simultaneous sensations that her awareness struggled tracking despite her considerable processing capabilities, theoretically making such multitasking trivial compared to other information management tasks her consciousness regularly performed. The original Freddy positioned himself behind her, while the Dream Demon maintained his nightmare assault from the front. Their coordination, creating experience that her accumulated previous encounters had not quite prepared her for, despite considerable sexual history, and despite various partners whose diverse approaches had collectively educated her about range of possibilities that intimacy encompassed when approached with proper intention and proper skill. His entry when it came was demanding without being harsh, aggressive without being painful. His rough nature finding complete expression through encounter that accepted rather than required, moderating his authentic self for partners' comfort. His voice emerged with that distinctive growl that his damaged vocal cords created. "That's it, sweetheart. Take everything we got and show us that strength you keep insisting means you can handle our darkness without breaking or without running scared when the nightmare really gets going, and stops being playful intensity, pretending to be dangerous, while actually staying completely safe and completely controlled." The Dream Demon's nightmare essence surrounded her in ways that physical presence alone could never achieve, his nature permitting him to be everywhere and nowhere simultaneously, creating sensations that originated from impossible angles and from impossible sources that spatial awareness insisted should not exist, despite her enhanced perception confirming their reality through direct experience, transcending what logic suggested should be possible. The coordination between physical aggression and nightmare essence created rhythm that was simultaneously violent and controlled, chaotic and directed, their respective natures finding synthesis through shared focus on her pleasure, rather than competing for dominance or allowing their different approaches to create conflict that ego might have generated if priority had been individual performance, rather than collective service to recipient whose satisfaction represented their shared objective, transcending personal validation. The original Freddy's intensity manifested through sustained, powerful movement that his considerable stamina permitted maintaining with premature conclusion, his rough energy channeling into focused application rather than just being unfocused aggression, hoping lucky accidents would produce positive results. His burned hand gripped her hip with bruising force that her enhanced durability permitted experiencing as intense pressure rather than as actual injury. His control making the violence real without making it harmful through distinction that most observers would struggle perceiving despite its fundamental importance. The Dream Demon's nightmare essence penetrated in ways that physical violation could never replicate, his nature permitting access to psychological and spiritual dimensions that material interaction simply could not reach, regardless of skill or regardless of intensity that purely physical encounter might achieve. The wrongness that his touch created had somehow transformed from unsettling into intoxicating, her mind having finally accepted that normal frameworks simply did not apply when engaging with being whose fundamental nature existed outside conventional reality's constraints. Jade felt herself approaching peak that their coordinated assault was building through accumulated stimulation that multiple simultaneous sources and multiple types of sensation combined to create awareness fragmenting between physical intensity and nightmare essence, and her own body's escalating responses that cascading activation was producing across neural networks that pleasure specifically engaged and that her various enhancements had optimized beyond baseline human parameters. Her voice, when she managed articulating response, emerged rough with intensity that their combined efforts had created. "Don't stop. Don't you dare stop or hold back now. I want everything. Want all of it. Want the complete darkness and the complete intensity, without reservation or without careful control, limiting what you're giving me. Because concern about overwhelming suggests I need protecting from experiences I explicitly requested and explicitly consented to receiving without limitation." The original Freddy's response was to increase his intensity further, his movements becoming more aggressive and more demanding, his rough nature finding ultimate expression through encounter where restraint had been explicitly forbidden, and where her obvious capability and obvious desire both made such escalation appropriate, rather than representing the loss of control that concern would otherwise have prevented permitting. His voice emerged as pure growl, communicating primal satisfaction. "That's our girl, taking everything we got and asking for more, instead of tapping out when most people would be begging us to stop, or to slow down, or to show some goddamn mercy that you clearly don't need and clearly don't want." The Dream Demon's nightmare essence intensified in corresponding escalation, his assault on her psychological and spiritual dimensions becoming more invasive and more overwhelming, creating experiences that conventional language struggled describing, despite their profound impact on her complete being, rather than just affecting physical dimension that material interaction alone would engage. His layered voice carried satisfaction, matching his partner's obvious pleasure about finally being permitted complete authentic expression. The peak, when it arrived, came with force that even her considerable preparation and her considerable capability found challenging to process, waves of sensation crashing through every dimension of her being simultaneously, rather than just affecting physical pleasure centers that baseline experience typically limited itself to engaging. The intensity went beyond overwhelming and briefly touched something approaching genuine too much before her resilience and her absolute determination prevented her from actually reaching limits that would have required them stopping, despite their obvious continued desire for pushing further. The original Freddy continued his rough movement through her climax, his control sufficient, despite his aggressive nature, for maintaining rhythm that extended her peak beyond what it would naturally have sustained through continued stimulation. That proper technique, deployed even during moments when many would have assumed gentleness, represented appropriate response to partner's obvious intensity. The Dream Demon's nightmare essence maintained its assault throughout, supporting rather than competing with physical sensation, enhancing rather than distracting from material pleasure that his partner's efforts created through their continued coordination, despite the overwhelming nature that combined effect was producing through sustained intensity that neither alone could have achieved regardless of individual capability. The original Freddy's release followed shortly after hers, his rough cry mixing with satisfaction and with genuine feeling that their complete authentic encounter had finally permitted him expressing without reservation or without concern about frightening her through revealing what he actually was beneath the careful control that redemption and love both usually demanded. He maintained. His grip on her hip tightened further before gradually relaxing as intensity subsided into comfortable aftermath that successful encounter created. The Dream Demon's climax, when it came, felt different from physical release. Nightmare essence finding its own form of peak that material biology could not quite replicate, despite analogous satisfaction that his nature permitted experiencing through means that conventional understanding struggled adequately framing. His voice, when it emerged, carried contentment, mixing with renewed recognition about what they had shared, transcending just impressive physical encounter, and touching something deeper about acceptance and about genuine intimacy. The three of them remained connected for an extended moment as awareness slowly returned from fragmented state that extreme intensity had created, as breathing gradually normalized despite enhanced systems making physical recovery considerably faster than baseline human biology would permit, as their respective natures settled back into more controlled presentations, now that explicit permission for complete release had been thoroughly exercised and thoroughly satisfied. When they finally separated, when bodies and nightmare essence both withdrew with careful attention to ensuring comfort during disconnection, rather than just releasing without concern about abrupt transition, potentially creating discomfort, Jade found herself supported between her two most dangerous lovers, whose respective natures had been given complete permission for authentic expression, creating encounter that would remain profoundly memorable despite her accumulated considerable experience with various partners. Her voice, when she finally managed articulation, carried satisfaction mixing with lingering breathlessness and with genuine appreciation for what they had shared and what it meant for their relationships moving forward. That was absolutely extraordinary and exceeded even my optimistic expectations about what coordinated intensity from you both could achieve when restraint released completely and when your respective authentic natures found full expression through encounter that celebrated rather than just tolerated aspects that conventional romance typically excludes through fear, disconnected from recognizing potential beauty in darkness and nightmare, when partners possess courage matching desire for complete authentic connection. The original Freddy's response was characteristically direct despite his own obvious lingering satisfaction, making coherent speech require effort. That's what you get when you ask the nightmare to come out and play for real, instead of just pretending to be dangerous while actually staying safe and staying controlled. We gave you everything, held nothing back, let you experience what we actually are when the darkness gets unleashed without concern about scaring you or without worry about being too much for someone who kept insisting she could handle our complete selves. His burned hand moved to cup her face with surprising gentleness that contrasted sharply with the rough intensity he had demonstrated moments before. And you took it all, handled everything we threw at you without breaking or without begging us to stop, despite us pushing harder than we ever have with you before tonight. Makes a monster feel seen, feel accepted, feel loved for complete authentic self, rather than just receiving tolerance for carefully controlled version that hides dangerous truth about what I actually am beneath the redemption story. The dream demon added his perspective with those harmonics finally settling back into more unified voice now that extreme manifestation had concluded. Hugh honored us through not just accepting our darkness, but actually craving it, actually wanting to experience our most nightmare aspects, rather than preferring we keep such intensity carefully hidden beneath surface presentations that most people find more comfortable engaging with, despite such limitation preventing genuine, complete intimacy that authentic encounter creates, when courage and desire both permit full, vulnerable, authentic engagement. His form had returned to more stable configuration, though traces of nightmare essence still flickered around edges, suggesting his fundamental nature remained more manifest than usual controlled containment typically permitted displaying. We have finally been completely honest with you, completely authentic, completely ourselves without reservation or without protective distance that concern about your reactions might otherwise have imposed as barrier preventing you from experiencing what we actually are, rather than just what we choose, showing during normal circumstances, that redemption and family context both shape into more socially acceptable presentations. Jade felt profound satisfaction about what tonight had accomplished beyond just physical gratification, recognition that accepting and celebrating their darkness, rather than just tolerating it while preferring they keep such intensity carefully controlled, represented crucial development in relationships that complete honesty and complete acceptance both required for reaching their full potential depth. Her voice carried emotion when she articulated what she wanted them to understand about significance. You are exactly who and what you need to be, nightmare and demon, and the beautiful, terrifying intensity that your respective natures create when genuine courage and genuine desire combine for producing experiences that conventional frameworks struggle acknowledging as legitimate expressions of love, despite their obvious value for those possessing both capability and commitment to embracing complete authentic selves, including dimensions that most would flee from in absolute terror. She pulled them both closer, wanting physical contact, emphasizing what she was articulating. This was not just successful, intense encounter. This was genuine, profound affirmation about darkness deserving celebration rather than just receiving tolerance, about nightmare and demonic natures being valued rather than just being accepted as unfortunate aspects requiring managing, about your complete authentic selves being desired rather than just being endured by someone whose love makes her willing to overlook what others would consider disqualifying characteristics. The three of them remained together, processing what they had shared, comfortable silence eventually giving way to quiet conversation about their respective experiences and about what the encounter had revealed and had confirmed about their capabilities for meeting each other's intensity without either side needing to restrain or moderate their authentic natures for the other's comfort or protection. Welcome to understanding that love knew no conventional boundaries when courage matched desire, that nightmare beauty and demonic intensity deserved celebration rather than just tolerance, that darkness and violence and overwhelming power could enhance rather than diminish intimacy when partners possessed fearlessness and possessed genuine commitment to complete authentic connection, transcending safe, comfortable limitations that fear imposed. Welcome to recognition that fearless meant exactly what it suggested: willingness to embrace all aspects without hesitation or reservation, complete acceptance that validated rather than merely permitted. The nightmare's double embrace had been thoroughly experienced and thoroughly celebrated. And somewhere in an impossible castle between realities, three souls whose respective natures existed at the very edges of darkness had forged bonds that fear could never create, but that courage and genuine desire and absolute acceptance together had made not just possible, but profoundly beautiful in ways that conventional frameworks struggled acknowledging, despite obvious truth that complete authentic love required embracing every dimension, including those that most would reject through terror. Disconnected from recognizing that darkness held its own terrible beauty when met with strength rather than with flight. Episode 160.